at the daylight coming in the shop now. This shop door faces to the east. And the pile of shit we got in this yard hauled up, holy cow. I'm gonna have to hire a big bin to come in and get all the stuff when I'm ready to go. But anyway, so now you got the natural light, so you actually see some of these goofy items behind me. And for anybody curious, yes, the mounted deer, a black-tailed deer, and that one on the wall behind me took me a handful of years to get him. He's the Mac Daddy. And that whitetail mounted right there is an Alberta whitetail, grain-fed. I honestly don't think I've ever had better tasting game meat than Alberta whitetail myself. Well, elk and moose are right up there. Sheep's, mountain sheep, see the mountain sheep on the wall? Mountain sheep is the best table fare going, period. I don't know why, it just is. It's like, as an example, you get a moose or your elk, and you bring it home, you want to hang it up in the bushes before it gets made into all the edible portions. And it's rarely can you just go and cut a steak off your fresh kill and camp and start eating it, besides the tenderloin, of course. But the mountain sheep, it doesn't matter. You can take a steak from anywhere instantly and cook it on a fire, and it is absolutely juicy and tender and so good, it's ridiculous. It's the only game meat, as an example, people come over and I'll always send people home with halibut or salmon or moose or elk or whatever. And as an example of how hard it is to obtain that sheep meat, people come over and go, man, I hear that mountain sheep's really good. And he's like, yeah, it is, it's really good. I don't share it. It's you only get so much meat off of one of those animals when you harvest it, but it is so good, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, enough of that babbling. Now, I got a lot of shares to do here. I got so many, and I checked the inbox and the email yesterday, and it was off the chart, stacked full. A lot of very intelligent people are sharing a lot of interesting information, not only on this topic, but on many other topics, right? Because it's not a secret. I want to start talking about other topics that need to be talked about because nobody else is. It's amazing. Once you get up to a good audience, you want people to, you just don't understand why people do not talk about what's important. And when you start to realize that on a large scale and you look at, that's for me, I'm at the stage where mainstream media, if I could, I would string them all up. What they are doing to our community, all of the communities today, nonstop. I strongly feel they should be put in jail for a long, long time, including the late night television hosts, all of them. All the mainstream news, all the late night television hosts, the people with the largest numbers. If you really jump back, get out of that bubble and look at what they're doing, you will clearly see that all they are doing is contributing to and promoting divide. Period. It's so easy to see. And then you see the results in our community and the results of how we treat each other today. It is a direct result of what mainstream news and those late night talk show hosts are doing to us nonstop. It's easy to prove. I'm not just going on a mindless, uneducated rant. It's easy for every single one of you to look into that and see what I'm talking about. And as this community here grows, I am going to start hammering on those pricks harder and harder and more directly. And I want to make it clear to the entire population how we're being misled, manipulated, and how our divide, our squabbling amongst each other is being utilized for people to be drunk on money and power. And it creates very shitty communities for us, right? But anyways, I'm babbling. But like I said, when you see, that's how it starts, if your brain functions that way. You see one of these things, and like I said from day one, it's your easiest example to show the people that we are being lied to and misled. This is one of the easiest topic subjects to prove it. We've got hundreds of thousands of people that are seeing these all around the globe. And it easily as well shows you the power of mainstream media, the power of mainstream news, the power of the people with the largest audience. As long as those people are all under instruction controlled and keep us focused on various narratives, it's very easy for truths such as this one and many other ones to just get swept underneath the carpet and kept there. There's nothing you can do about it, right? but we're going to do something about it. You know, as an example, I got to say this one more time. As an example of what one of the notes that I take down, which I always wonder about, and I wonder why you don't see, the majority of people don't see it. Here's an example. So how uneducated we are, and here's an example of how easily we are manipulated to attack each other. Let's just say there's a police force somewhere in North America. They're very abusive, maybe killed a couple people, possibly intentionally, more from abuse of power. The community goes insane. What are we taught to and conditioned to do? When we're upset, we attack each other, right? No educated, rational thinking mind blocks a highway with their bodies and beats on senior citizens' cars when they're trying to go to the drive-through, or somebody's trying to drive through to get to their child, or somebody's trying to get to the hospital. No educated, rational thinking mind blocks the people and attacks the people and beats on people's vehicles when they're upset with authorities, right? Now, if we were to think clearly, rationally, and we're upset about something that's going on in our community that wasn't right, whether it be the police force or the government, we would go block the driveways of the politicians, right? You go and protest to the people who are in control. You don't do what they've conditioned you to do and attack us. You don't attack each other. You don't beat on your neighbor. You don't pull the trigger on your neighbor, right? Anyway, obviously I'm going on a bit of a rant, but that's really been on my mind a lot lately. It's really been bothering me, and I will do another video. I'm going to do a handful of videos on it later to point out the obvious to all of you so you can share it with your children and everybody else and point it out yourself and start changing the shit around. You know, it's just like when you go to another country, terrorists. Here's another example, terrorists. Foreign countries send their troops to another country, annihilate them, shoot them, occupy them. People fight back, they're called a terrorist. People are pissed off, so they blow up innocent people. The terrorists blow up innocent people, right? They kill the people, they terrorize the people. How come the terrorists don't blow up the politicians' houses? Right? How come the terrorists don't attack the people who are in control? They never do. It's always attacking the people. The terrorists attack the people attack the people. The people don't believe the people discredit the people. But none of you are going after the pricks who are conditioning to do that. Nobody's going after the mainstream news people. Nobody's going after the late night television hosts. No one's going after the government who controls the armies that go over and annihilate the people. Nobody's protesting in politicians' yards. That's why nothing changes. That's why everything's getting worse. Politicians need comfort. When politicians get uncomfortable, shit changes, right? As long as we're fighting amongst each other, not believing each other, attacking each other online, the pricks who control your thoughts and your emotions just sit there and keep reaping the benefits, right? Anyway, there's a little bit of my coffee-loaded rant for the day. Obviously, I got a lot to talk about besides just this topic, but this topic is important to me because of the tens of thousands of people who are being discredited and losing their passion for the outdoors, and we're getting that back, so here we go. We're sharing everybody's voice. Give the people their voice back, their respect, and we get stronger, which is going on, right? The little people in a word of warning. All right. Good afternoon, sir. After hearing the account from your video this morning about the little people, it brought to mind the story I've heard from my grandmother, a Hunkpapa Lakota, and Mr. Ash, an Ojibwe elder. We've heard from Mr. Ash before and enjoyed hearing. In all the spirits of the land, the little people are the most benevolent. It is easy to have the elders of native tribes talk about the Sabe than the little people. They're scared to death of them. The Ojibwe, if they tell you at all, will speak of the Pukwudgie or the Memagwesinag, plural, or the Memagwesi, singular. They are described as 2 to 5 feet tall with long dark hair and a grotesque appearance. Some have described them as troll-like. They are said to be water spirits that live near rivers and in swamp areas and large mounds. They can appear and disappear at will. Some have been seen turning into bright balls of light, then shooting through the woods, bobbing through the timber. They can be invisible and walk alongside you as you travel through their area. They also have the ability to mesmerize people and animals with their stare. They are known as tricksters who will steal food, menace unwanted travelers through their land, and it's been told they can start fires. There are many Ojibwe stories of them attacking and killing the Anishinaabe. They are known to show themselves to children and holy men, but anyone showing respect toward them with tobacco and other gifts, it's said they will help you and let anyone see them. The elders said at one time the Anishinaabe lived in peace with the Memaguesawag, but over the centuries, the Memaguesawag and the Pukwudgie became benevolent and dangerous. The elders also would tell you never to follow a ball of light or whistle in the woods at night. The children of the tribes are taught this as soon as they are big enough to play outside, and to never play outside after dark. Then there's the Nirumbi and the Awakul. The Plains tribes have several names for them. They will not speak of them except to family. The Lakota call them, roughly translated, as devils. Explorers Lewis and Clark wrote about them in their journals in 1804, along with the Lewis and Clark. 10 other men came across a spirit mound near Vermilion and Missouri River. Meriwether Lewis wrote the little people were devils. They stood 18 inches to 2 feet tall, and their heads were large and odd-shaped. They carried long arrows, and according to their size, were spears. Meriwether also wrote how the native people would never go near the spirit mound because of the Nirumbi's ability to mesmerize the people with shimmering light. The person mesmerized would never be seen again. The Witchayena Lakota have told a story that's over 250 years old about a group of 350 warriors who came near this spirit mound during the night, and nearly all the warriors were killed, and those that survived were maimed and crippled for the rest of their lives. Wow. The Cherokees speak of, if they tell you at all, about the Yunwi Tsindi Tsunsi. These little people are barely 20 inches tall, but in this case they are described as being handsome, with long black hair that nearly touches the ground. They've been known to help those who are lost in the woods and care for them until help comes or the person finds their way to safety. They are considered as guardians of the Cherokee people. The Cherokee have an oral histories of how Yunwi Tsunsti helped and guided the Cherokee on the Trail of Tears. It's been said that Yunwi Tsunzi helped lost children in the woods and swamps. Want to hear the story of the young boy who was lost in the woods down in the Carolinas for days, and he said a bear had taken care of him? I immediately thought it was either a young Sabe or a Yunwi Tsindi. Who knows? I wasn't there, but that's my thought. The Cherokee say it's a bad medicine to speak of the Yunwi Tsunsti, period. And if you do see one, you can't give the account for 7 years after seeing them, and the number one rule when it comes to the Yunwi Tsunsti is to never speak about them after dark. Just by speaking of them after dark will bring the person speaking and their family misfortune or even death. There is much more in the woods and swamps of our lands than just the Sabe that we have no understanding. Mr. Ash told me once that the Memaguesawag and the Pukwudgie were Sabe's little brother. They travel together at times. When I asked more about what he meant, he shook his head and told me, "I have said enough." I knew never to press Mr. Ash. The wisdom I've gained from him to this day awes me. I wish I could ask more about my woodland neighbors, the Sabe. I have no fear of them, though they can put the fear of God in you with their screams. Every tribe in the North and South America have their own stories of the little people. Look up the tribes in your piece of the world and try to find some of the native stories. Lamestream media and the so-called scientific community writes off the native stories as nothing more than folklore and myth. With a little due diligence, read everything from the tribes. Piece it together and you'll find the authenticity of the stories. And there is no doubt in my mind that is strong, true words. Take care, Steve. Good to see you feeling better, and congratulations on receiving your own blessing of having the Sasquatch trust you enough to let you see him or her. They know you're in the woods with them. They see us before we see them. Mr. Ash would tell you, you can have no better friend in the natural world. Respect is always returned when given to these people. Hope this helps someone with their journey of understanding. You still have a standing offer to come by the cabin anytime you're in my neck of the woods. Mitakwe Owesin, pronounced Mitaku Oyasin. Oyasin. Let me do that one more time. Mitaku Oh, yeah, sin. All are related. Brian Stidham. Brian, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking your time to share that with all of us through me. I absolutely appreciate it. And I hope that we can hear more and more, right? And like you said, lamestream media and what's also referred to today as political science is 100% the enemy of the people. Always have been, always will be. Anything that helps and benefits the people is squashed by those two groups consistently, right? Look into it, prove me wrong, okay? What else do we got? Okay, where are we? I'm still back in the June folder trying to find, oh, this is a screenshot from something. All right, what do we got? I might have read this, might not. It's not marked red. All right, hey Steve, this is a screenshot from a comment, I think, on YouTube. Hey Steve, I was on an SOG team in Central America 40 years ago, and I've seen one of these beings before. For your information, my buddy, who was still in the service, told me of a time they were told to mount up and lock and load during winter mountain training because a unit had been wiped out. What wiped out that unit was not human, but something that was not part of the mission. My buddy said that they were sent on a seek and destroy mission, and they did. I'm sorry for being so vague, but some things need not be elaborated on due to military security. Enough said, stay safe and continue the great work you're doing. Richard Becerra. Richard, I know your name. You've sent us some interesting emails from Africa, I believe. Remember that? I think you told us that story of those rebels that were being pursued by the good guys, and they held up in a swamp, and something killed a whole bunch of them. They disappeared, and a couple basically ran to you guys for security. But anyways, if you send me something like this, Richard, you can't be so vague. I mean, why bother sharing it, right? You just told us some amazing things that possibly went down, and then you end with some things need not be elaborated on. I think everything needs to be elaborated on. I think the people deserve to know everything. I don't believe that there's any groups or people of authority that deserve to know more than the people. It's all about us, man. We need to elaborate on everything. Thanks again for sending that in. And please send more, Richard, okay? I absolutely appreciate it when you share the people through me, man. I appreciate it big time. Battleground Earth. Hi, Steve. I've come across the YouTube channel and truly appreciate what you do. If you're looking for some truth, I have a big dose for you. Bingo. I'm all over it. Right now, the Earth is a battleground between truth and lies, good and evil, and whether humans will become a race of slaves or free themselves from the clutches of human cabal. No doubt. A cabal that is under the direct influence of what people have referred to as satanic forces, the forces of evil, or what people biblically describe as the archons, if you understand that term. There's been various labels throughout history, and I have direct proof of this. I've sat with what I call the gods of chaos, which I'll get into. First, a little history. Previously, the Cabal remained in the background, pulling the strings of society from their dark places. They've shaped their history through the wars and economic control and social engineering, and they're good at it. But right now, the cockroaches are scurrying out from under the fridge. They've put all their eggs into the COVID basket, and this is the last generation of what we may consider to be free human beings, although that is even a stretch under this all-encompassing global government. But make no mistake, humanity is at the end stages of a war. The problem is, half of the population has no idea we are at war, and the other half may think there's something wrong, but they're not entirely sure what to do about it. However, I can tell you that right here and now, it's a fight or die. Now for the direct experience part of this, and this requires a little bit of my personal background. I was raised by two alcoholics, a suicidally depressed father who had been abused by a Catholic priest and an alcoholic mother who was in and out of mental institutions when I was growing up. Oh, that's a sad story, man. My whole life has been a struggle to get out from underneath the insanity of that upbringing, which eventually led me to the Peruvian jungle, sitting with Amazonian shamans drinking a brew called ayahuasca. Not sure if you've heard about it. Yes, I've heard about it a lot. Haven't done it, but I've heard a lot about it. Western science is discovering this powerful psychedelic medicine. Dr. Gabor Mate a world-renowned Canadian addiction specialist, was using it to cure East Side Vancouver Skid Row addicts from heroin and cocaine addictions. Wow. They would often give up the drug of choice in one sitting with no detox required. Wow. That's how powerful and healing this brew is. But ayahuasca being a psychedelic, and with the medical establishment being what it is, Mete was threatened with his medical license for daring to actually cure addicts, and he's eventually drummed out of Canada. Those dirty bastards. Ayahuasca opens up the spiritual dimension, and people under its influence interact directly with the ayahuasca spirit. She heals and teaches. The Amazonian Indians used ayahuasca to master their jungle environment, and they had abilities such as night hunting in the darkest jungle that we in the West would consider to be supernatural. Long story short, as I'm undertaking my own healing with this powerful psychedelic brew, I would be shown things in the spiritual dimension. On one occasion, I had a very civilized chat with what I called the gods of chaos. I won't get into that because that's another story altogether. However, this is the spiritual influence of the global cabal that right now wants to destroy humanity. This is the spiritual influence of the eugenicists, the globalists, the people that are mass transforming humanity and that want to reduce the human population to 500 million people as per United Nations Agenda 21. The gods of chaos are the great dominators, the bringers of lies and deception to this earth. Some of the globalists do understand this very clearly, but most of the super wealthy are just useful idiots who buy into the idea of making money for money's sake, where the hoarding of wealth is the end goal. And us little people are nothing but human chattel to be used or killed at their pleasure as they see fit. There's a spiritual force that is at work on this earth today, and they are now wanting to kill off 6 or 7 billion people to get humanity to what they consider a manageable level of 500 million. This is the end game, their last gambit, the turning point, and it's now kill or be killed. Anyone who is actually speaking the truth and exposing the lies is an enemy, which means you are their enemy. I haven't been shown what the outcome of the battle raging right now will be, but I know that the people must stand up and fight for not only their freedom, but for their lives. This is battleground Earth, and it's happening right here and right now. You're absolutely right about uniting people and leaving no one behind. God bless you and the work you do, Steve. You speak in the truth. Get people to understand our shared humanity. Fight or die. Alan Finney. Alan, interesting email, man. Thanks for that share. And if you can, email me at least more on your journey and how you progress through it and what you learn, find out, all right? And the cabal, the global battle going on Earth, there's too much evidence pointing to that being true. Sadly, the majority of people are stuck looking at photographs on their phone going like this all day, right? Or fighting and squabbling with each other, screaming out racism, screaming out gender neutral this and all this other bullshit that has been created for all of you to squabble amongst each other. When all you gotta do is embrace your neighbor no matter what they look like and love them and protect them and listen to them. That's all you gotta do. If everybody did that across the board, the amount of bullshit society has right now would be instantly eliminated. Wouldn't that be incredible? It's all up to you. It's up to the people, man. It's up to the people, right? You gotta recognize who's actually making you mad at your neighbor. It's not your neighbor. I'll guarantee you that one. It's not your neighbor. Why don't you try looking at that? If you get a chance, look into who is creating the divide, who is promoting the divide. It's very easy to see. It's easy to see what the mainstream suppresses. It's easy to see what the mainstream deletes so you can't see or hear it. And it's also easy to see what they promote. Now, what are the most common promoted topics today that piss you off delivered from mainstream media? Check it out. Just do it yourself, all right? And if you can think of it a little more independently, go against what they're promoting. Go against it. Don't go with it. And then see what happens to your daily life. It's going to change. All right? Quite the day of babbling here today, isn't it? I don't even know if we shared a Sasquatch story yet, have we? All right, what do we got? Okay. Oh, man. I haven't watched the news since the Oklahoma State building bombing in the early 90s. I slept a little when 9/11 went down. I'm an empath, you see, and these things literally hurt me. I stick to nature. Things aren't evil out there. This is why I think I understand why water, especially running water, blocks the vibration of each other. Now bear with me. Water Naturally occurring and moving is the best place for me to go when everyone is upset and agitated. It creates its own field of energy, and that is pure. There was a wonderful scientist recently passed that did experiments on water memory, a Dr. Emoto. Some seriously interesting stuff. Basically, if all around me is full of shit and upset, like this past year and a half, I head to the river, it buffers all the random feelings and leaves me with just my feelings. Also, you said your ears ring constantly. Man, sorry. My reason for bringing this up is a gentleman named Mr. Rick Simpson. He has a documentary out for a long while now called Run from the Cure. He has what the doctors call a suicidal injury. Basically, he got banged in the head bad, and the never-ending ringing in his head would drive someone to that. Believe me, I don't take this lightly. I lost both brothers this way. He makes his own medicine. He caught charges for making it and giving it away. The judge in the case said he should have been given a medal, but had to give him a trafficking charge. He took care of his legal and left Canada for good because of his government. I make medicine for me, my dog, and another half always. It works for so many ailments, and you are legal up there now. Wash this stuff up and make your own cure. UFOs and Sabe aren't even the beginning of the lies. Thanks for all you're doing. Bring the light in to chase those shadowy efforts into the light of truth and knowledge. Shannon. All right, Shannon, thanks for that share. I don't see any recipe for that medicine or where we can see it or even the name of it. If you could email that back, it might help somebody out, and somebody especially who's curious of it, which I am. My experience with SAS. All right, let me mark this as red. You may not want to share my experiences because, unlike others, mine are only positive. Now, why would you say that? I'm not just after negative, I'm after it all. I'm after whatever helps the people, all right? I communicate with Scott Carpenter quite a bit since my experiences show nothing but love, affection, caring, concern regarding me. I guess I'm one of the few lucky ones. I live in central New Hampshire in a rural area. I have 8 acres of which Sask have lived there. I discovered them 5 years ago when an adult male approached me 20 feet away. After a few moments after sizing me up, he just vanished. No, I was not scared, but amazed that after only 2 months, one would approach me and observe me long before I saw him. After that encounter, it has been the most wonderful experience of my life. They guard me night and day. They have written to me on paper and left it the next morning. The gifts they give me are magnificent. Each morning I wake up to their wood knocks, woos, and whistles. After we have all greeted each other good morning, they are off on their day as I am on mine. The most important thing is respect. They understand me when I speak to them. They can speak English, and have spoken my name 2 times. A month ago I got my first lip smack that I got recorded. I play music for them, and occasionally we will have a jam session with all of us beating our sticks to the music. If they want more, they say woo woo. If I am upset, I tell them. Usually a female will gently hum to me, along with a heavenly fragrance to help me. The juveniles will come up at night and sleep around the back of the house. In the woods, they love to tease me, and I tease them back, and they have marvelous sense of humor. These beings are also highly intelligent beyond what we could ever comprehend. They know every language there is to know. We love to communicate with each other by glyphs. I wish others could have experiences like that I have, but I do understand why they're not like humans. Thank you for Steve being here for us. Cheers, Megan. P.S. I'll send a couple photos and show they can be kind and loving. Okay, Megan, I'm looking forward to it. And but Megan, be sure you're aware. It sounds like you are possibly quite fortunate, but just beware. These aren't the only things running around out there. All right, we got literally hundreds of millions of people in North America, and a lot of these people are being terrorized, possibly abducted, harmed, have animals and pets being absolutely annihilated. And it's not just the Sasquatch that are running around, right? Well, thanks for that share. If you want to share some photos, everybody, go ahead. But if you want to share more detail, you can, of what's really going on with these beings. We're all ears, and make sure you share it. All right. All right. What do we got? Not so many Sasquatch experiences. I'm just reading these as they're saved into into the notes from the inboxes. Nothing's in order. Nothing's been pre-read, okay, you guys? I said, bizarre encounter, a 4-year-old and family. All right. Hi, Steve. My name is Casey from Connecticut in the U.S. I've sent this story in before, but I know how busy you are, but I think it is important due to involving a child. You read my personal encounter just last year, and I apologize if I'm a pain in the ass. You're not a pain in the ass. Keep it coming. This is a multiple encounter that my very good friends are dealing with, so here it is in her words. All right. Dear Steve, I live in a suburb, northeast U.S., late 30s, married with a few children. I'm aware of Bigfoot, and I'm very open-minded as I am awake and know that I know very little about what is beyond the veil. I don't research Bigfoot, though. My son, who is 4 years old, is a brilliant little boy. His teacher says his verbal and social skills make you feel like he's 12, not almost 5. We chose to delay his vaccine schedule and give him the minimum required by state for school, so he has a total of 3 shots out of about 32 he would have since birth. 32? He's quite intuitive. Some are his nature. Although we live far from an Amish lifestyle, God is frequently discussed in our home and we pray daily. Joe is so cute. He chooses playing with the little army men and dirt or wrestling and playing ball with the dog over screen time. I don't know how we lucked out with these kids, but we did. Pretty average middle-class family. Number 1, a few weeks ago, my 4-year-old Joe at 3 a.m. laughing, giggling, almost in a fit of laughter. I sat up and then a moment later he quieted down and went back to sleep. Number 2, the next morning when I asked him what was so funny in his dream, he said Bigfoot came to him and was being silly, and she asked me for a watermelon, saying it was for a baby. I said, what do you mean she asked? He said, yeah, she asked. She just put the idea in my head. The next night he said he told her that he couldn't give her one, and she said it was okay. Casey came over a week or so later and left a watermelon out on the nature path about a quarter mile away from us, in an area in a stream and hiking trail near home. Sort of it as an offering, honoring what my son says he heard. A test that may sound silly, but why not, right? I think living in this world with a sense of wonder and mystery is essential to having a good life, staying childlike but not childish. Number 3, the night we left the watermelon, Joe woke up in the night. He hadn't since the giggling incident and said, still in his daze of sleep, stop tickling me, playfully laughing, and then he went back to sleep. At that very moment, our Labrador Retriever, who is a wonderful alert dog, didn't go crazy barking but stood on my bed at attention and perked his ears up as he does when an animal's around. After that, for about a whole hour, he prowled the house, slowly walking and smelling corners and windows. Unusual behavior for him before or since. Number 4. A few minutes later, after the dog started making his rounds, my husband and I were startled by clearly hearing what sounded like an altercation between a low, deep, nonverbal guttural voice and what sounded almost like a female voice saying, "Get your hands off of me." The voice shouted that 3 times, but not like a real human voice. We thought, maybe the neighbors are fighting and we should call the police. Unlikely, since they are very elderly and this would be illogical, uncharacteristic. My husband jumped out of bed and turned the light on and everything immediately stopped. Number 5. The next morning, my husband took the dog out. When he came back in, he said, "You and Joe had fun lining up the dog sticks, huh?" Our dog chews on these logs, larger than sticks, smaller than a log, and I have left a pile outside about 10 to 15. I was confused. "What do you mean?" I asked him. He said that he cleaned up the pile of logs that were laid in a circle, end to end, about 10 to 12 logs forming a circle right outside our window, which happens to be where we heard the fighting female voice come from the night my son said, "Stop tickling me." So you have an intuitive child laughing in his sleep, saying a female Bigfoot asked for watermelon. He says he was tickled by one in his sleep. We left a watermelon out, and later that night, a fight of some sort ensued outside our window, right where a circle of sticks/logs was found by my husband the next morning. I know my kids in the coming and going from the house, and the security alarm was on. No one snuck out and made a circle out of some clearly by none of us. No one snuck out and made a circle out of some clearly by none of us who live here. The odd one would come in our yard and make a circle out of sticks and a pile seemed pretty slim, right? So bizarre. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, we have cameras on our home as part of a security system, and I was so flipping excited to get to the camera to see who made the circle of sticks, except there was a problem. At about 3 a.m., the system makes a crackling noise and stops recording. Then at about 4 a.m., the machine turns back on normally. That freaked me out the most. An hour dark period of tape where there was nothing recorded. And when the tape turned back on, the circle of sticks was there on the corner of the house. On many nights, we hear them screaming or making noises no other animal is capable of making. Even other neighbors are coming out of their houses now to try to see what these sounds are from. It's all true, I swear to God, and attest that these words are really happen, and I'm passing them on to Casey so he can pass them along to his fellow Sabe enthusiasts to see if you all have any thoughts. All I'm doing is continuing to pray, as I always have, and just take care of my family. Curious about any feedback. Thank you so much for all you do and for all of us. You've created a place of truth. This is so rare these days. Keep it up and know we got your back no matter what. God bless you and the entire Truth Seekers. Sure. And you're right, that does sound absolutely crazy, doesn't it? Tell that to your average community and how many people are going to scream out you're nuts. But I'm at the point now I want to hear all of the people speak no matter what. We have been told what is nuts and what isn't nuts since we were kids in school, right? Not anymore. I want to hear it all. I don't know about you guys, but I want to hear it all. What would I do if I were you? I would just tell them flat out, leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I'm not here to bother you. I don't want nothing to do with you. Leave me alone and let us be safe and live peacefully. You know, it's about all you can do right at this point is tell them what you want and don't want. Now, please ask Owlman. All right, I'll let you do it right now. Hi Steve, just a quick email request for you to ask Owlman what a proper safe salutation would be towards a Sabe that you unfortunately find yourself afoul of in his territory or presence. In Green's book, I learned that if you raise your hands above your head and say, rock, rock, loudly, that they will understand that as, hi, I'm here, and leave you alone. And that was spelled R-O-C, R-O-C. Never heard of that myself. Please check with Owlman on that info and request and let us know. Many thanks from all of us for the safe space. Jim from Utica. Okay, Jim, it's out there. Owlman's listening. If he wants to reply, I'm sure he might do it in the comment section below, maybe. I don't know. And that's the first time I ever heard of those two words. But I didn't really follow John Green myself. I read a book of his 20 years ago. That's about it. Things in a sacred manner. Hello, Steve. Thank you for all that you do, for establishing such a site as this, and for being so non-judgmental and sharing all emails regardless of the positions of those sharing. I, like others, offer my condolences for loss of your much-loved Mr. Macaroni and wish you and Sarah the best in your new home. Thank you for those kind words. I appreciate that. Just finished watching a video on June 18th, 2021, and felt compelled to send you this in response to a question raised and a statement made in a previous email because both are related. All right. Sabe is only a part of the bigger truth, stated in his email that we don't know who we are, that we can see without our eyes and feel without our skin. And I would agree with this statement. We don't know who we are. It has been said that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And in my understanding and experience, we are. This physical experience that we are all having is a necessary part of our developmental process, just as the time we spent in the womb acquiring the physical components that we would need for our time in this world. We're here in this physical realm to acquire those components we will need in the next world. Those components we will need in the next world are spiritual of nature, not physical. We need to develop our capacity to love, especially to love those who are different than us, to be understanding, to be compassionate, to be generous, to be accepting and tolerant of one another, not judgmental, etc. These qualities are of our higher selves, and the stronger we become in manifesting these qualities, we find that we love more, we become more confident and assured, and we fear less. As stated in Dune, fear is the mind killer. We need to learn to put aside fear in all circumstances and to bring forth love, because, as it has also been said, love is a light that dwelleth not in a heart possessed by fear. To belittle anyone's experience when they have encountered on an unknown being or force, and if felt the mind-numbing fear which has been part of many people's experience. I can only address this form from my own personal experience, and which come in dreams, and offer the following. Ever since I was a young child, I've encountered bears in my dreams. I've had 3 such dreams spread over many years. I was always terrified of the bears and tried to hide and or run from them in my dreams. We all know how hard it is to run away from something in your dream state, LOL. Anyway, sometime after the first dream, I learned of a culture from where the dream state is extremely important and determines their actions in their waking hours. In this culture, when one experiences something that frightens them to such a degree, they are told to speak to their dream self and to learn to quiet the fear. The reason for this was that the feared being was actually trying to tell you something of importance and that you needed to hear what they had to say. When I next encountered the bear in my dream, I was not yet able to quiet my fears, but by the 3rd time, and by this time I was an adult, I was able to calm my fears, and yes, the bear spoke to me. So, as spiritual beings, we need to learn how to walk through this life in a more spiritual way. There is more in keeping with the way of First Nations peoples. My teachers have been Anishinaabe and Lakota, but I've also learned from Hopi elders, Dene elders, Mayan elders, and Navajo elders. The Navajo call this walking in beauty. For others, it is called walking or approaching life in a sacred manner. One should approach each new day in a sacred manner. Be thankful. When one enters the forested areas or any isolated place, it would serve one well to approach it in a sacred manner. We do this through prayer, by identifying oneself in a sacred, humble way, to speak humbly of one's intent, and to ask for permission to enter and to acquire what one is seeking. Then to be open and aware of any message you may receive. We of Western civilization have forgotten who we are, know how to approach the unknown, and how to humbly be with those who are different from us. We have much to learn, and time is more than ripe for us to learn what others have to teach us. In addition, you have now had 2 emails where people have experienced an unusual encounter with trees. One was dragged by his hair into a cedar tree. One was flipped heels over head off of a tree. And Les Stroud related an experience he had in the Hoopa territory where he and his First Nations guide heard ongoing knocks coming from within a large cedar tree. Very, very interesting. My appreciation once again for all you're doing, and we all continue to learn and grow and to understand, though through judgment, separation, disunity, through understanding, unity, growth. M.K. Thomas. P.S. My son had several experiences, and later I had an experience with the little people called Mamagwasuk. Mamagwaziuk. And I had experience with the little people called Mamagwaziuk. Wow. Well, that all sounds... All right. Well, thanks for those words and that share, man. It's going to take a lot for the majority of society to break free from the misery. You know what I mean? There's so many angry people running around today. It's kind of sad in a way, because all it is a choice, right? You wake up in the morning, you either choose to be pissed off, choose to attack your neighbor, choose to go online and look for something that makes you angry and hammer on caps lock and blow a gasket, or you can wake up, look at that beautiful color blue in the sky, smell the fresh air, and find something that makes you feel good, right? Help somebody or learn something good and helpful. It's all choices. I guess the choices don't add up to many if you've got a lot of them being withheld or hidden from you, right? But anyway, time to go. I've babbled my head off this morning, and I got stuff to do, and I'm going to keep this ball rolling. And the larger the audience we get, the more voices we hear, and the stronger we get, the more truth comes out, right?